There's this wonderful story that I want to share with you today about a man named Tony Clark. He was a commander in the Royal Horse Artillery in World War II. In this World War II story, a British person is going to get all the glory. Caroline will be proud of that. The rest of us will just have to let them have the credit this time. The place is Tuscany. It's in Italy, and there's been a number of sort of difficult battles that have happened there as German soldiers have held these usually hilltop towns, and the Allies have had a difficult time sometimes cracking some of those towns. There is one great, or at least I should say well-known, battle in Monte Cassino, in which a lot of Renaissance art was destroyed, and there have been countless books and movies about this. A huge treasury of human achievement that had just been lost, right? And then there was this additional story in a town called San Sepolcro, which was not on a hilltop, but instead in a valley. There was this thought that we could do the same thing again and have the Royal Horse Artillery shell this town into sort of oblivion, and then the Germans would either leave or they would be so weakened that we could go in and kind of crack their line of defense. So Tony Clark is the commander of the artillery that is set up on a hillside ready to bombard this town. And all of a sudden, a number of this is how he reports it in his diary, a number of kind of lights go off in his mind, or bells start to ring. One is that he had been present the last time one of these amazing towns had been destroyed and all this Renaissance art had been lost. He knew what the risk was, right? In just shelling this town without thought. Another light bulb goes off that says, I've not seen a lot of German troop movement today, or in the last couple days of observation. They could be gone already. They might have seen that we had the higher ground and seen our force, and they might have left already. And then a third light bulb goes off, and it's a memory of his of reading this essay by Aldous Huxley from 1925, in which Huxley describes the greatest painting in the world, he says. It's a fresco, and it suddenly dawns on Clark that this fresco is in a town called San Sepolcro, which is in the crosshairs of all of his artillery. And so, even though the command has already come in, he defies the orders and refuses to shell the town, right? What a huge risk. Imagine the court-martial that would have happened had he been wrong and his soldiers went in the next day and lost their lives because of the German stronghold. But instead, they went in the next day and found out that they had preserved what Huxley had called the greatest painting of all time. We have that painting for you here today. Josh can pull it up. This is called The Resurrection. It's an amazing painting, I think, in part because of the kind of confidence of Jesus. He's one part Captain Morgan and one part, he looks like he could play linebacker for the Falcons right now, right? Rise up, everybody, by the way. Just going to toss that out there, right? That is not a weak Christ. That is not a Christ that lacks confidence at all. That's a Christ that full well knows that he's been victorious over sin and death, right? It mirrors back to Clark the confidence that he exuded the day before, right? The confidence to take incredible risk knowing that the victory is already won. The confidence to take that risk knowing that that risk is to preserve what is truly valuable in this world. That's what Jesus did for us. It's what Clark saw in this fresco. And I think that is very much what Jesus invites us to hear today when Jesus says to us, you are salt and you are light. Be bold, be confident, because the victory has already been won. And so what might be different about the way that you behave if you know that the victory's already been won? What are the dark places in this world that you might shine a little bit of your light into instead of trying to hide it under a bushel basket if you know that there's no real risk involved? What are the amazing things worthy of preservation in this world if you are truly salt and you're not worried about losing your saltiness? Jesus invites us, I think, to be a part of that confidence. I love that that what we are, though, is somewhat depicted by those sleeping soldiers and disciples underneath, right? We are normally slumbering a bit. This is, by the way, no scathing critique of Christ Church. We do amazing things. But, right, here we go. But don't we spend most of our lives, a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more asleep, a little bit less confident of what Jesus is doing right above us, right? By the way, that is, when I say we, that's a very intentional choice, because when Jesus says to his disciples, "You are salt, you are light," he's not saying you individually are salt and you individually are light. Jesus is using a plural. We just don't have a good translation that'll use y'all. Y'all are salt. Y'all are light. Y'all's Father in heaven can be glorified by what you do. Collectively, you are so much more than what you are as individuals. We heard something of that last week when we heard the Beatitudes, Jesus laying out this incredible countercultural blueprint for how we might be as a society. And Jesus says to us, exercise that and it will exceed your expectations. It will exceed the expectations laid out for you by the law and the prophets. It'll exceed your expectations even though it might cost you something. This is the continuation of that same sermon. You are capable of so much more if you have the confidence of Christ standing on his own tomb. If you have the boldness of Jesus literally putting his foot on the place where he was buried, looking into God's future instead of the past. I think that today Christ calls to us to consider where the dark places are in this world that we might collectively shine our light. There are so many places that need to see that light. What are the places that are at risk for being ruined or lost? And they need a little bit of salt. Salt would have been used to preserve, by the way. This is pre-refrigerator for you kids out there, right? Salt was used to cure, to preserve, to hold on to those things that were worthy of holding on to. What needs to be held on to in this world that needs your salt to do that? What are the places in this world where the glory of God seems to be hidden somewhat, and all we have to do is take that bushel basket off? Christ invites us to consider those and to do them. Not to do them because we think we are great people, not to do them because this is the best church in Ponte Vedra Beach, but to do them because of the boldness of a Christ who's already won the victory for us. To do them out of a boldness I think, of claiming our rightful place. Christ has not given us a spirit of fear or trepidation or timidity. Christ has not given us his spirit so that we can slumber at the foot of the tomb. Christ has won this victory and given us Christ's own spirit so that we can join him, so that we can stand up too in this world of darkness, in this world that needs our salt, in this world that needs to see God's glory. We can stand up too and take our rightful place, standing upon the very grave which tried so hard to conquer Christ, but instead proclaims to the world Christ's love and Christ's victory for us all. Amen.